Hello everybody, I'm the BIOS Chemist and I'm making a tier list. This is a new frontier for me. I've never made a tier list before, but it's Halloween and I wanted to kind of celebrate. And unfortunately I didn't have enough time to make a PS1 video. We'll get back to those soon though. Up here in New England, it's supposed to be a really spooky time of the year. Today it's 80 degrees outside and the only scary thing that's going on is that there's a mass murderer on the loose. So yay. Happy fun Halloween times. We're going to try to make a Resident Evil tier list. It's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, ongoing franchise in video games. Resident Evil is really tied to the PS1 and it made its identity as the PlayStation 1 was making its identity. Several games were released for the PS1, of course. So I think it's got a bit of a connection to this channel. And yeah, it's a fun series that we can talk quite a bit about. I haven't played every game in the series, unfortunately. Some of the side games have eluded me. I look to play all of them someday, but we'll get to that. We're going to start off with the first game, of course. I'm going to put it in A tier. We might move things around as the tier list develops, but this is a solid game where everything started. It's got a lovely amount of hokiness that makes it feel just like a B movie, while at the same time it does still have a creepy atmosphere. If you play this in the dark, you start walking around the Spencer Mansion, you can really get lost in this game. It's a really colorful game too, interestingly enough. All the rooms of the mansion are really distinct. The music too, awesome. It's a really fun game, of course. The voice acting might be the best or the worst part, depending on how you look at it. I think it adds a lot of charm. It really makes its identity, to be honest, around that. And I think it helps establish that Resident Evil is never supposed to be a super serious franchise, but it can have serious moments. An excellent game. It's going in A tier right now. I'm going to try to go in chronological order of when these games were released. We'll see. Resident Evil 2 came out, of course, after Resident Evil 1. I think this is A tier alongside it. It's going to be very difficult to try to make a definitive answer of which one is better. Resident Evil 2, I think, objectively improves and expands a lot of things. You, of course, have Leon and Claire introduced for the first time. Ada Wong, of course. It really depends on if you like this game over the first. I think it really depends on if you like the atmosphere of the mansion more in game 1, or if you like the RPD and getting to explore a bit of the city here in game 2. I'm going to put 2 ahead of 1 just because I think I like the RPD and getting to see the city a bit more. Next up, Resident Evil 3. It's going to go in B tier. It's a good game, a solid game. You play as Jill Valentine from the first game. You, of course, revisit the RPD, which is kind of cool, but it's also like, we were just there in the last game. It feels a bit like a rehash, a bit cheap in that way. But they do add a lot of things in and around the city. It's cool to explore. From what I remember, a lot of the city's a bit more linear. I feel like there's less exploration that I had to do while playing this game. Maybe that's just my memory serving me wrong, but of course you can't talk about RE3 without its namesake, Nemesis. While Mr. X was in that Resident Evil 2, Nemesis is like the guy, right? Having that one big bad that you can't really destroy. You can maybe knock him out a little bit, but he's always going to be there, that oppressive presence. I think that has a lot of influence in games like maybe Amnesia and I guess Outlast. Those games are more like defensive, but with Nemesis you really have to be defensive because you can only do so much damage to him, right? It really amplifies an element that you see in the first 2 games. You always had the choice of running or attacking, but Nemesis really makes you think on the spot, do I run here or do I try to take him out? And that's really a beautiful thing, I think. Next up, Resident Evil Survivor. Another PS1 game, not numbered. It's going to go in D tier. I don't think it's bad enough to belong in Why Do You Exist because I do think there is a bit of an enjoyment factor. In case you don't know, this game was like a first-person game. Instead of having a normal like first-person shooter type deal, you move this cursor around on the screen to shoot. It's supposed to be a light gun game, I believe, but when it was released in North America over here, they didn't develop the light gun to work for it. I'm pretty sure there were light guns for the PS1, but yeah, it didn't work for this game. It's somehow hokier, I think, than even RE1. For that reason, there's still a bit of fun to be had here. It's stupid fun, but it's a playable game. It's like a so bad it's good type of game. Next up, we're going to have Resident Evil Code Veronica X is the version I played on the PS2. This one is a really tough game for me to rank because I feel like I don't have that sort of attachment to it. I played it many years ago. The couple of times I've tried it out, it's been very difficult for me. It might be one of the hardest RE games, I think. There's that one part in the plane where you're Claire and you're trying to take out the monster or whatever. I must have died 20 times, 30 times when I first played it because I don't think I had any ammo left. That's probably what left the impression that this is a hard-ass game for me. I think it's going to go in B tier for now, below Nemesis. It's kind of in between the evolution of what's to come with Resident Evil. It's like the missing link because it's got that feel of the early games while not having the pre-rendered backgrounds anymore. It has all the in-engine environments. I need to go back and play this game again. Maybe I'll enjoy it more. But I think B is fair for it. Next up, Resident Evil Gaiden. I have not played this. It's the Game Boy Color version of Resident Evil. I think it's a different timeline, if I'm not mistaken. It looks really cool from what I've seen. Graphics are really impressive. It's cool to see Resident Evil in that 8-bit style. It has the first-person view when you're attacking the zombies in this game. I think that's also really impressive. I want to try it out for myself someday. I'm not sure what's up next chronologically, but we're going to say Resident Evil Remake. I'm going to put this in S tier. That's not exactly a hot take. It's not going to be my number one Resident Evil game, I'll tell you that right now. But it is really impressive what they were able to do. And it's honestly impressive how good this game still looks today. This came out in what? Early 2000s, and it's still solid in the HD collections 20 years later. It improves what RE1 did in pretty much every way, and it finally converts it from that B-movie horror fun to like an actual legit horror games. Resident Evil Remake kind of has an oppressive atmosphere that you don't really feel in any other Resident Evil game, I don't think. It's at least overall. Other games have scarier moments, I think, but as a whole package, Resident Evil Remake really, really nails it. It knows what it wants to be, and it achieves at pretty much the highest level. Next up, we're going to talk about Resident Evil Zero. It came out on the GameCube first, and that's how I played it. I'm going to be mean and say C tier. It just didn't hook me. I wasn't a huge fan of the mechanic of switching between the two characters. I don't think it's terrible, but I feel like it could have been done better. The formula was getting played out at this point. You had all these other games that have been released, and Resident Evil Remake, I believe, came before Zero, really nailed everything. So to have Zero kind of be like, it's trying new things, but I don't know. It's always been one of those games where I'm like, I could kind of forget about this game and I wouldn't be too upset. I'm going to say Resident Evil Dead Aim next. I have not played this, another spin-off game. And while we're at it, this is Resident Evil Survivor 2. I think this one was only released in Japan, so I haven't played that one. I think that's a light gun game as well, though. I say that as if Resident Evil Survivor 1 was a light gun game. In North America, no. We're going to talk about the big guy, Resident Evil 4. It's going to be, for now, the leading game. We'll see if my mind changes, but its reputation certainly precedes it. I played the PS2 version first, which I hear isn't the best, but there's so many ports of this game. It's one of the most prolific games ever that you can kind of pick and choose which one you want. I also played the Wii version. That's really fun. Why is this game good? When it first came out, it was revolutionary, obviously for the franchise because it's so different, but also for games as a whole with its third-person camera and how it did things like that. It really established the third-person shooter genre. It really stands out from all the third-person shooters that are out there now by having the stop and shoot mechanic. You can't walk and aim, if my memory serves correct. It's more strategic than the run and gun shooters you get most of the time. Like, I think Uncharted as a third-person shooter, or Gears of War, you're kind of running and gunning. This game, you kind of got to pick your spots wisely and say, all right, I'm going to make this shot. I'm going to shoot this Ganado in the knee. Then I'm going to roundhouse kick them and knock down this whole horde of zombies here. This also has the B-movie feel, but it feels more intentional than I think the other games did. A lot of people I can see having RE Remake be their favorite because it takes itself so seriously. Resident Evil 4 knows it's kind of hokey. And it plays with that. So it really depends on your outlook. I kind of like both. I just appreciate both types of games and both types of tones. So Resident Evil Outbreak and Resident Evil Outbreak 2, I think I'm going to put them in the C tier. These might be better games, but I've only played them solo, offline. So yeah, these were multiplayer games. Unfortunately, I never got to play them as multiplayer games. I kind of just played them solo when I did play them. I didn't play too much of them because I think you would definitely get way more out of it playing with other people. I've heard some people say that they absolutely love these games, and I kind of envy them for that, having that experience. Alright, next up right here on the list is, I think this is Umbrella Chronicles. I'm going to say A tier. I love light gun games. I think just being able to go through some Resident Evil locales and stuff and just shoot your way through, I just think that's the most fun thing. Playing this game on the Wii. I don't think I've actually played Dark. Is it Dark Side Chronicles or just Dark Chronicles? I'm going to put them actually both as B. Because frankly, this should be one fucking game. If this was one game, it would easily be A. Why they split it into two, I don't really know. Technically, I haven't played this one, but I'm just going to put it in B because I can't imagine it being much different than Umbrella Chronicles. Resident Evil 5. Okay, this is the first Resident Evil game I ever played. I got the gold edition for Christmas one year, many moons ago, and that's what got me into the series. Not sure if they're going to make a remake for this. A lot of people have been talking about it. I think they will make a remake because Resident Evil 5 is one of the best sellers in the franchise. I'm glad this is one of the first ones that I played because I'm not sure I would love it as much if it wasn't my first experience. It has all the like the fun aspects of Resident Evil 4, so maybe it goes into A. I'm going to hold off and put it in A right now. It's fun to play with another person. Does that make it less scary? Yes, it makes it less scary. If you're playing with somebody like your girlfriend or a friend who's not into horror games or whoever, somebody who's maybe not as initiated with Resident Evil, I think it makes it more fun. I do think this game, and frankly even Resident Evil 4 a little bit, they kind of are drab looking, and I wish they had more color. They definitely suffered from the growing trend at the time that was like make everything brown and gross looking, but it's not necessarily a bad looking game. I am interested to see if they do a remake, how they adjust. With the gold edition, it came with like the extra DLC. I forget what it's called, but the expansion where you are playing inside of a mansion with Jill Valentine and Chris, I think that was really cool, especially with the Easter egg where you can get the old static camera angles. I haven't mentioned at all Mercenaries mode, but yeah, I always had a lot of fun with the Mercenaries in this game. I feel like there's a decent amount of content here, and it just doesn't have the same charm that RE4 does, so it's going to stay in A tier. But as far as gameplay goes, I think it's fun. Mercenaries. I'm going to put this in Why Do You Exist? I haven't played it, so technically it should go in Haven't Played, but it kind of makes me mad that the Mercenaries aspect of the game, that should be, since we're talking about it, Resident Evil Revelations. I'll put that right beside it for now. It's not going to stay there. I don't think they had any Mercenaries in Revelations, if my memory serves me right. If they did, it was like minimal, and then they made this game instead. Why didn't they just fucking include it? It's kind of bullshit to try to extort extra money. I'd rather have a smaller Mercenaries mode that's included in this game than have a slightly larger Mercenaries mode that's its own game. You know what I mean? And since it's on the 3DS, I don't think it was the optimal system for that, right? That's a good transition, I guess, to talk about Resident Evil Revelations. They made it really well. I think this belongs in A tier. I haven't played it since the 3DS, but I think this is one of like the earlier 3DS games. It really helped that early library because I don't think that library had a lot going for it when it first came out, the 3DS. It's set on the boat, which is not entirely original, I guess, but for Resident Evil, the way they presented it, it was cool. And I think the broken kind of level structure almost that this game had really made it stand out on the 3DS as being a handheld game. I have not played this on console, so I don't know how that would translate. It was legitimately scary for the parts that wanted to be scary, but it also had a lot of action elements too, based on what chapter you were in. I just have good memories of this game, so it's going to go in A. I think below the others is fine for now. While we're talking about it, I have not played Resident Evil Revelations 2. I want to get a collection and play both these games again on the console, but I'm going to have to put this in Haven't Played, unfortunately. Operation Raccoon City. I am not going to put this in Why Do You Exist? I think this is a solid C. Is it shit? Kind of, but I had fun with it. It's a third-person shooter that is... It really doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game much, other than the coat of paint that they put on it. But, I don't know, I beat this game all the way through. I thought the jankiness, the kind of jankiness, is fun, just for what it is to laugh at. I just remember having some fun with it, and that's all you can really ask for in a spin-off, so You know what? I say a low C. And it is more competent than Survivor, so it's not going to go quite in D. Resident Evil 6. This is a game I haven't played much of, and for that I'm going to put it in C. It's segmented into 4 different characters, if I remember right, and I played some of Leon, but the first one I played was some of Ada's, and I just found that extremely frustrating. I did not get far in Ada's story, because I think it was like stealth, and I just didn't find it fun or interesting. Leon's I had some fun with because I think the mechanics in this game are really, really good. So I want to give it another chance. My opinion right now is a low C. Lower than Operation Raccoon City because it left a bad taste in my mouth with Ada's experience. I didn't even bother playing the other 2 fucking characters because I was so annoyed. Next game, Umbrella Corps. I have not played this one. I'm tempted to put it in Why Do You Exist, but I'll be fair. I've heard a lot of bad things about it. I haven't played it, so we'll keep it there. Next up, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This is going straight to S. I played the Gold Edition a little bit after it came out, so I wasn't right on the hype train, but I think this game really nails the atmosphere. I love the Texas Chainsaw and Evil Dead inspirations. It gets bogged down at the end with the boat stuff. It slows down, so I think it's going to be my low S. But what it did for the franchise after how many people complained about 6 being too much action, it definitely focused the franchise again. Resident Evil 2 Remake. This might be my highest for now, my highest S rank. Like the first remake, RE2 Remake kind of gets rid of the hokiness and the B-movie aspect that is indicative of the PS1 era and just makes it like pure horror. The first time I walked into that gas station as Leon really just sticks out to me in my mind. I think in the demo I played, I was like, I have to get this game, and I think RE2 Remake really it fulfilled its promise. Did it? Is it perfect? No, definitely not. They could have added way more content. Could it have been better? Yes. Is it a disappointment? No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's where it's gonna go for now. We might adjust that. Resident Evil Resistance. This is Why Do You Even Exist? I didn't even know if this game came out, to be honest. I thought it looked really cool, and it was supposed to come with Resident Evil 8, I believe, but it got delayed for so long that I completely forgot it was even a thing. And at this point, if it's even up and alive still, I don't even know if the game's still alive, but I don't even want to try it. It's a cool idea having all the Resident Evil characters in a multiplayer game like that, but you fucking lost your chance, you know? Resident Evil 3 Remake is going to be an A tier. A lot of people were disappointed by this, and I can see why. It's a very short game, and especially coming off the heels of 2, you'd expect them to kind of like make those improvements by adding more, because a lot of people complain about those things in 2, when in reality they kind of took a lot away. Hold on, let me think about this. Is it better than the original? You know what, I'm going to put it right below the original, just to be fair. Gameplay is very fun, and I did actually platinum this game because it was so short. I thought, what the hell, why not? I think all the unlockables and power-ups that you get really do add to the game, and I feel like that's how it's supposed to be played. But it's a very valid criticism to want more of what was in the original. The foundation of the mechanics that RE2 made, it really, like, it can't be bad. They really have to fuck up to make it bad. It's plays so well. Yeah, the set pieces are very distinct in my mind. I do wish there was more of it. Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil 8 Village. I think this is S tier as well. I've only played through it once, but I think it is better than Resident Evil 7. And I probably like it more than the Resident Evil Remake because of just the first person gameplay I prefer. I prefer 7's atmosphere and the characters of 7, but I think the gameplay of 8 is better. And I guess the individual set pieces of 8 are really, really distinct in my mind. Especially Lady D's castle it's just amazing looking. And obviously the best part, I think everybody thinks the dollhouse is probably the best part of that game. And I'd agree. That baby monster is easily the scariest thing in the entire franchise. Yeah, I think the bombastic game that we get here is really awesome and exciting. I have not played the DLC with, is it Rose the baby? I need to try that out someday. Wait, Resident Evil Reverse. Is that what I'm thinking of? Was I thinking of Reverse when I put Resistance in? Which one of these was supposed to be out with Village and then took forever to come out? I'm going to put them both here just because I don't know anything about them. And I know I haven't played every single Resident Evil game, but I am a huge fan of the series. The fact that I don't know about these games just kind of speaks to their existence, I think. Resident Evil 4 Remake, S as well. This is the latest game that's been released in the franchise as of right now, and it's extremely fun. I played through it so many times, just in a row too, to get S rankings and whatnot, to get a lot of the unlocks. It doesn't include everything that's in RE4. Again, I haven't played the Ada missions. I believe they're out now, but I haven't played them, so I can't really speak on that. It is disappointing that they don't come with that, but when I played through this game, I didn't feel like I was lacking stuff, you know what I mean? When I was playing through Resident Evil 2 Remake, I did feel like I was lacking stuff. So I'm going to put it above 2. The gameplay it's phenomenal. It's definitely different from RE2 and RE3 remakes, because it is a bit more action-oriented and less about the cyber horror. I want to play it again right now. That's how much I love it. And maybe it's some recency bias, but it's been months since I've played it, so I don't know. I can't really say. So let's try to order things out here for good. Do I think RE4 Remake is the best Resident Evil game? I'm really trying to see if it's recency bias that's influencing this here. I want to say 2, but then again, 4 has like the Mercenaries, but the Mercenaries wasn't the best, but then Resident Evil 2 didn't have everything. It's so hard to say, but I want to say 4 just because I couldn't put it down and I replayed it so many times. Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2 remakes are both awesome. They both lack a few things in the content department, but like I said before, I think the gameplay for both is just impeccable. Resident Evil 4 Original, does that belong below 2? I think so. I think in this ranking it's fair, just because 2 is trying to be that serious horror game. But then again, I don't know, that's the charm of 4. I think I prefer 7 over Remake 1. I really do appreciate Remake 1 for what it is, but I just don't find myself going back to play that game. Village and 7 are kind of equal for me. I need to replay Village once or twice more just to kind of see if it stays and belongs in that spot. Alright, A tier. I think RE2 is probably over RE1 for me. Is RE1 better than RE5? Yeah. But I'm going to say Revelations is a little better than 5. At least in the context of how I played them. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis Original and Resident Evil Remake 3. Resident Evil 3 Remake, whatever. I don't know how to... There's too many fucking remakes to keep track of. I'm scared about how they're going to do 5 just because it's going to be such a freaking headache. I think they're equal. They both kind of feel like they were rushed in their own ways. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, the OG, has more stuff going on. So I guess I'll keep it slightly above RE3 Remake, but I do like all the like the equipment and power-ups and stuff you can do to make each playthrough fresh. I did have fun speedrunning that game. I'm going to move the 2 Lycan games over Code Veronica X just because I love that genre of game. Code Veronica X, or just Code Veronica, solid, but it never really stood out to me. I think that's about right for C tier. And then D tier, yeah. So yeah, this is my Resident Evil tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. What is your favorite Resident Evil game? What is your least favorite? Where did I fuck up? Where am I wrong? You guys let me know in the comments. I hope you guys have an awesome Halloween. And I hope whatever Resident Evil game we get next is awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy Halloween.